Next year. If you forget me next year.
Hello and welcome. My name is Raj Gupta. I'm from Vanderbilt University, Nashville, Tennessee. We are in San Francisco with the ASRA Fall Meeting 2021. And we want to have a little bit of recap of what the meeting's been, some of the highlights of the meeting. But I want to start first with Dr. Sam Nowrouz, president of ASRA Pain Medicine. And I want you to talk a little bit about something that's happened significant for the organization in our rebranding effort to better align the organization's mission and visibility with the goals of the membership.
Thank you, Raj, very much for this opportunity to connect with our members. I'd like to explain more what happened and where are we going next. 2 or 3 years ago, we realized that calling ourselves just ASRA, American Society of Radiation Anesthesia, and ignoring the pain medicine part, we might be perceived in a different way. So to confirm this, we contracted a company and we did the research for a full year, interviewing different stakeholders, and it validated our concern that people are perceiving us, non-members, outsiders, but in the pain community, they are perceiving us as only regional anesthesiologists or physician treating acute pain,
right,
but not really into the chronic pain arena. So
even though we had a lot of presence in chronic pain already.
True, but our own people, our own community,
people, right,
our
but outside
own
the organization,
family,
people
they
didn't
know that what we are doing.
Correct, right.
But outsider, and so we found that there may be a potential opportunity for us to grow that we're missing. But on the other hand, they told us that there is lots of equity in ASRA. So they told us to not change ASRA, but somehow incorporate in medicine. So we came up with this idea after deliberation and approval from the full board. So we called ASRA Pain Medicine. The idea
it's a new name.
It's a new name.
It's the same organization. It's
The same
ASRA Pain
organization.
Medicine, and it's trying to encompass that whole spectrum of pain, from the beginning, acute pain, transitional pain, to chronic pain, all of the in between, right? All under
our
one
legal name is the same.
Yeah,
It's
still
American Society of
it was
Radiation
always there.
Anesthesia and Pain Medicine. It's
Right.
just how we refer to ourselves instead of ASRA Pain Medicine. And as you said, I mean, we are old society. We are almost 100 years old.
Almost
society.
100 years old, yeah.
We, our founding members, actually created the field of regional anesthesia, renovated and regional anesthesia and acute pain over the decades. So now it's time to express ourselves, unite the field, break the barriers between acute pain and chronic pain, cover the whole continuum of pain, even from prevention of pain prior to surgery, managing the pain during the surgery, PACU, transitional pain, chronic pain, interventional pain, prevention of complication, disability, rehabilitation after chronic pain. So we are uniting the experts from the whole field, anesthesiologists, non-anesthesiologists, podiatrists, neurologists, psychiatrists, and more. So I think we have unmatched experience traditionally, historically, and continuously. We're innovating the acute pain part, and we're going to cover the whole continuum to chronic pain, hopefully prevent chronic pain and disability from chronic pain. And this is our vision and goal, is to stop the burden of global pain.
And I think that what people should know is that they're going to see some new logos, they're going to see some new designs and artwork, they may see some new comments and statements. That's all part of the rebranding, but the core part of it is that the mission of the organization is better aligned with what the members are doing, what the organization is researching, advocating for, and educating people on. We're not leading the branding to something brand new. It's actually just representing the organization even better, and then leading to the new frontiers.
I couldn't agree more. You expressed it better than myself even. And actually, we just had editorial in Rackham Journal, the journal that you helping us with a lot. And I think the title was Established Society with a Renewed or Updated Mission. And you might argue we are already on the top of the field. We are the only regional anesthesia society. We are the largest pain society in North America with 5,200 members. Why do you want to do change? It's a good question, but my response would be, you change when you're in the top. Otherwise, people will catch up to you and it will be very difficult to change. People will leave you. But if you're on the top and you want to maintain your spot at the top, you have to renovate, you have to adapt to the situation. And this is exactly what we're doing. Actually, just showing the people what we are truly are. We are ASRA Pain Medicine, helping the pain community from acute to chronic. So whether it's acute or chronic, this is your goal.
Well, we're looking forward to all the things that the organization puts out, and I think will reflect these mission items. And thank you so much for sharing this mission item. We're going to talk a little bit more. Thanks, Sam.
All right, thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the meeting items, and I've got some of my co-hosts here, Sandy Christensen and Ketan Chopra. Come on in. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on at this meeting. Let's see, he's here. He's here. Yeah,
how are
there
you?
he is.
Hey.
There he is. Hey, and then Sam's making faces at us. Come in a little closer so they can see.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what's been going on at this meeting. This is our chronic pain-focused meeting in the fall.
Absolutely.
This is our first big live fall pain meeting
Right.
with the pandemic, and we've had a really tremendous attendance, both in person and with the hybrid virtual meeting. Better than we expected. But here at the meeting, you guys are chronic pain doctors. I'm not. Tell me a little bit about the themes that you're seeing and hearing about at this meeting, and what sparks your mind as far as what you're going to take back to your clinical practice. Annie, why don't you start a little bit
Sure.
about some of the stuff you're hearing about here?
Absolutely. So, I listened to a great research talk today by Steve Cohen. He was talking about basically how to get a research grant in different places for funding that you might not think of. So I think that was a fantastic talk. Tim Deere also gave a talk earlier just about the different types of studies that are being done and potentially future studies that are being done for some of these modalities that we're using on a regular basis. But when you actually look at the literature, there's just not that much yet. So super interesting talks, great panels, fantastic moderators. It's really nice to see everyone, particularly after 2 years. I don't know about you guys, but I was just attending virtual visits or virtual meetings until this year. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see some familiar faces, do some networking. It's just really great to be back.
Yeah. It's great to be just in person too. This is our first time we're actually all meeting in person.
Right.
So even though we've been doing the podcast for a little over a year, but I heard a great lecture from Dawood Syed about using peripheral nerve stim in the perioperative space. So that's been a really good sort of blend of merging regional anesthesia with chronic pain, because in chronic pain we use peripheral stim for chronic nerve conditions as well. And so it's been a great sort of meeting where we can merge the two things, regional anesthesia and chronic pain. That's kind of part of our rebranding with ASRA, being ASRA Pain Medicine now. So it's been a great sort of meeting, and it's just been fantastic seeing everyone here.
So we got Maggie Gurgis with us. He's the program chair for this meeting, so I don't know who better to ask about how he feels the meeting's gone. But let's I think the meeting's gone great. I'm not going to ask you that question. What I want to ask you is, you had a lot of vision about what this meeting was going to be, about what the topics were going to be that were being discussed in chronic pain. What do you think really struck a note with the audience at this meeting? What topics do you think people are really paying attention to right now?
So I honestly, first of all, thank you all for tuning in, and I'm very grateful to have that meeting in person. You said how you feel about the meeting. There's a big smile under that
I
mask.
can see it. It's right there. It's in the eyes. It's all in the eyes.
The eyes
Really,
smile.
one of them is relief and as long as I had people like yourself and others that are helping me during that meeting, that's the key to success. So actually, the key to success of that meeting is that I had great people that really helped me very deeply, supported the whole meeting. I think what really struck was the audience here in the meeting, that I noticed the attendance really high, is whenever we talked about, what's the next step? What were we going after? We're passing that pandemic, good or bad. We looked at the pros and cons of that. Did we advance those innovations? Did we disrupt some things? We really did what we were supposed to do in leaps of the future, that we got posed a little bit, and then we figured that we can utilize those newer disruptive innovation in pain medicine. I think the other thing that really struck us, the audience here, is that we had a lot of Ask the Expert interactive session. So it's either people are missing the interaction because it was not there, or we actually had very good topic, and I want to think that we had a good topic. It was really well attended, and people liked ask those experts those questions, and it's questions on the fly, and those experts were able to answer. And they had I think with taking off those slideshows, we had a lot of time to ask and interact, and I think that's really key that I felt like it's a different than any other meeting. And this is really happening and taking off. I think also the idea of a hybrid meeting has been like very successful. I noticed a lot of questions coming in the chat.
That's good.
I always, when I moderated a session, I thought like, is everybody going to ask questions? And maybe I don't have enough questions, and now I have too many questions. But I think that helped a lot.
So Sandy, in the chronic pain world, neuromodulation has like been really hot topic for several years now. And just as an outsider looking in, it seems like there is a reevaluation of the role of neuromodulation mixed into the excitement of it.
Okay.
And so I don't know if there's been a lot of conversation about, you were talking about research studies that kind of talk about outcomes and real results and not just early kind of quick findings and quick successes. Where do you think neuromodulation is in the conversation right now? Is there still a lot of growth happening there, or is it just tempered enough so that the growth is in the areas where it should be?
I think there's a lot of growth happening. I think it's not just from the research, Raj, it's also from what are the indications for spinal fluid stimulation and neuromodulation that we're maybe underutilizing therapy. And furthermore, if we're underutilizing therapy, what are the studies that support using it for those different indications? So, for example, there were some great talks today about peripheral nerve stimulation and different applications for that. Similarly, with spinal cord stimulation, maybe more so for pelvic pain and other types of indications that weren't initially studied since we focused on failed back surgery syndrome. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of where those studies go in the future and what they actually teach us as to what are proper and improper indications for spinal cord and peripheral nerve stimulation. But it's exciting.
Yeah,
It's
a lot of
exciting.
excitement still there.
It's exciting to see where it goes.
And it seems like the technology is still evolving too, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, I feel like the companies are working on devices. They seem to be getting better, smaller, longer duration, new styles of stimulation, new algorithms.
Going more wireless right now.
Wireless software that interacts with the devices in different ways. I heard a conversation about data collection for AI algorithms to analyze how they can personalize the stimulation for individual people. So it seems like there's still a lot of room for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about neuromodulation. We often thought of it, a few years ago as kind of a step of last resort, right? Like we try everything before we do a spinal cord stimulator, peripheral nerve stimulator. And what we're finding now is if we move neuromodulation up in the algorithm, we're actually having much better patient results and better patient satisfaction. And we're finding new ways to use it, right? There's that new study, the landmark study where they use high frequency stimulation for diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And so now that's an FDA indication for that. And we'll find as we advance through the years more and more that there are more indications that we can use neuromodulation for, and we're not just giving patients medications that can cause them side effects and that type of thing. So it's an exciting field and a lot of growth to be had.
So I saw a lot of people wearing green pants. Green pants. I saw Gary Schwartz. He was talking about his green pants because he was saying that cannabis is still an ongoing conversation and about its role in pain management. Tell me your thoughts about where that conversation is right now and where, what we see as far as utility. Again, is it still in the enthusiasm stage? Are we tempering the enthusiasm? Are we learning from early experience? Where do you think that conversation is right now?
I think actually you said it. We're learning. I feel like we're learning from early experience. We're kind of like not really pushing in the gas right now, trying to be stating where in each field or pathology of pain management that it can help. I'm very excited that we're actually sitting to put guidelines on that because I thought the only way to evolve with such a controversial issue is to just develop the guidelines first. And through the guidelines now, you can study very well. So I'm really, really happy. We discussed at least the development of that guideline, and multiple societies will be sitting on those guidelines. Hopefully that will be published soon. So that's where I can see, the future is we learn where it's used right now efficiently, but we're looking forward at putting some guidelines so we can advance forward and research more. And I think there's a lot of research to be coming out of that field, specifically in the areas of cancer and neuropathic pain. And that's where I feel like that most probably will have a critical role or no role. I mean, that's all depends on the research.
And speaking of guidelines, so we had the facet injection, cervical facet injection guidelines. I didn't ask Sammer about that. He was on that paper. And buprenorphine guidelines came out in the last year. I think there was another guideline I'm trying to think of. There's been several that have come out of RAPM and ASRA as lead people on these guidelines. How are these influencing practice now?
So I think one of the most interesting things that was highlighted in today's meeting was the number needed to treat for buprenorphine to help someone with opioid addiction. It's like 3 or 4. I mean, can you think of another medicine or therapy that has that low of a number needed to treat? I just thought that was remarkable. And this is the kind of stuff that's being presented at the meeting that you may not be aware of. We have these guidelines, and having someone kind of highlight, what's relevant and really bring to light the importance of some of these underutilized therapies, I think is huge.
Yeah, I think just having Dr. Nowruz actually present that facet guidelines paper was incredible, right? He's like the main guy, so he's able to expound really upon the main points in the article, and it's so important to have these guidelines because, let's be honest, pain can be kind of confusing. We don't really have established set guidelines all the time, and I think ASRA is doing a great job by rebranding, becoming not only a regional anesthesia organization, but a pain medicine organization, and taking that step forward and saying, here are the guidelines that are evidence-based, and this is what we should be doing as a field.
So I know for sure that one of Sammer's main interests through his presidency is developing more and more guidelines. I know of a lot of them in the pump line. I don't want to really release all the guidelines, but there's a lot of other guidelines that will be discussed in future ASRA meetings. So stay tuned to all the future ASRA meetings. But one of the panels that we're actually presenting is how to develop good guidelines. So I always want to remind people that guidelines are just made for guidance. That's why they're guidelines. But you have always asked, a wise man would say, it all depends on who guides me. So you have to really think about how to develop good guidelines. And there's one of the panels that we talk about really how guidelines is developed and how it's looked at, and how it can go to that level of evidence or prestigious level that your payers and your stakeholder would look at those guidelines and say we really appreciate those guidelines, and now when we can apply those, that might be an easier way of applying a certain innovation or technology to help our patients. So that's one of the panels.
Simplifying a lot of complicated information for busy people. Yeah, I mean that's a big part of it. There's too much information. How do you do that? But do it in a way. What you said reminded me of something that I'll do my little ASRA pain medicine plug. Is that many people don't realize that society invests a lot of money in professional development, right? And it may be not obvious to a lot of people, but things like teaching people how to write guidelines. But there's also, through our special interest groups, there's mentorship programs where we actually match mentors and mentees that are in the society that have expertise in the areas of your interest. We have public relations training, media training, professional development within the organization as well, trying to teach people how to talk to a camera, how to talk on mic, how to answer a journalist question. So there's a lot of stuff that the organization does on behalf of its members and for their overall success in research, in advocacy, in leadership, in their own organizations, in the society. And so I think that a lot of people maybe don't tap into those. Great way to get involved if anybody's interested and you're not sure where to start. Go find a special interest group. We have 27 special interest groups. 27. So if you can't find a subject matter special interest group that fits your desire, your niche, either you have a really interesting niche, or you
and then you can develop it, and we will accept it. By the way,
and then we'll
I
make
can
a
tell
new
you that.
special interest group. We just made a new one for military regional anesthesia physicians.
Wow.
And on the chronic pain side, we made an abdominal pain interest group recently.
So, and these are great channels for you to get involved, develop those professional skills, grow with the organization, contribute to the organization. So I want to wind it up. We got a whole crowd of people that are going to start walking behind us. It's going to get noisy in here because we're transitioning between meeting sessions. But what I want to remind people is we have a live meeting again. We're going to have live meetings next year, hopefully, as far as anybody can tell. And the content is amazing. The people are amazing. and we're going to have more of that. So I encourage you to go on to ASRA.com, learn about our rebranding, about ASRA Pain Medicine and all that we're doing for that. Join a special interest group and come join us for the next meeting. Come in the spring for the Las Vegas meeting for regional anesthesia acute pain medicine. Come in the fall in
Disney.
Disney, Orlando, Florida.
Can't beat that.
For the fall pain meeting. So lots of good content, lots of good meetings coming up. Thank you guys. Thank you
so
Mary,
much.
for a great meeting.
Thank you. Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure to be here. I'm sure you're getting ready for a little weight lifted off your shoulders in about 24 hours. But
Home stretch.
we're on the home stretch, and you've done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. And really grateful for everything that ASRA Pain Medicine have done.
We got to learn how to say that.
As a pain medicine.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.